When a place is too dark, your mind tries to fill it. Most fears are loud. Sirens wail, predators roar, thunder rips through the air. Darkness, however, moves differently. It doesn't rush in with sound or spectacle. It waits. It arrives the moment vision ends, when edges blur, colors flatten, and the familiar dissolves into pure potential. What we call the fear of the dark is more than superstition. It's a complex intersection of biology, psychology, and culture. It's the memory of our most vulnerable hours as a species, and the spark of our oldest stories. In a world now flooded with artificial light, the dark has become rare, but its power over the human mind remains. Tonight, we'll follow that power, from the evolutionary pressures that made night dangerous, to the neuroscience of a brain deprived of sight, to the myths that gave darkness a name, and the art that still weaponizes it. Because sometimes the most unsettling thing a space can do is vanish into darkness. Welcome to the fear of the dark. For early humans, nightfall was a dividing line between safety and threat. Archaeological digs show tight clusters of fire pits, not just for warmth, but for defense. Firelight wasn't mere convenience. It was a survival perimeter. Outside that fragile glow, big cats hunted, snakes moved unseen, and rival humans could approach undetected. Modern neuroscience reveals how deeply those nights are etched into us. Deep in each temporal lobe sits the amygdala, a pair of almond-shaped structures often called the brain's fear centers. Their job is rapid threat detection. Functional MRI studies show that the amygdala fires more intensively when subjects sit in near darkness, even when no danger exists. Cortisol levels spike, heart rate quickens, the auditory cortex sharpens, granting a temporary boost to hearing as vision fades. This isn't just a phobia. It becomes adaptive reflex. Sight is our dominant sense, processing roughly 80% of external data. Remove it and the body diverts resources. Skin becomes more sensitive to the air currents. Muscles tense, ready to flee. The dark isn't empty to our nervous system. It's a field of possibility, each one potentially fatal. Those ancient calculations still trigger in a modern blackout or a quiet walk down an unlit street. Long before science named the amygdala, cultures gave the dark a face. Greek myth revered Nyx, primordial goddess of night, mother of sleep and death. In the Hebrew Genesis, the universe begins without form and void, a black ocean awaiting light. Norse cosmology opens on Ginnungagap, an endless rift of nothingness from which creation emerged. These stories did more than entertain. They mapped the unknown. Across continents, light came to mean life and knowledge, darkness, chaos, and ignorance. Folklore cast villains as shadow dwellers and heroes as bringers of the flame. Even today, we describe discovery as shedding light and ignorance as being in the dark. Technology has flooded our nights with LEDs, but the metaphor persists. We may no longer worship the night, yet our language betrays an instinct that darkness is where meaning stops. Children demonstrate this fear of the dark in pure form. They rarely fear emptiness. They fear presence. A hanging coat becomes a figure. A creak becomes a footstep. Psychologists call this pareidolia, the brain's bias towards pattern detection. It's the same tendency that finds faces in clouds or animals in constellations, an evolutionary safeguard that once helped us spot predators. Adults claim to outgrow it, but the reflex never disappears. A sudden power outage, a moonless hike, a walk through a long, unlit corridor, all can reignite that scanning instinct. Studies in cognitive science show that in low stimulus environments, the brain's prediction circuits ramp up. With fewer real inputs, the mind generates possibilities. A shadow becomes a person, a rustle, a threat. Darkness does not merely hide, it invites invention. Darkness doesn't only obscure the outside world, it exposes the inner one. Carl Jung described the shadow, the hidden aspects of self we avoid. With no visual anchor, the mind turns inward. Late night insomnia, spiraling thoughts, and the peculiar intensity of 3 a.m. worries are measurable phenomena. Electroencephalography studies show increased activity in the default mode network, the system involved in memory retrieval and self-reflection, when people remain awake in darkness. Freed from external distraction, the brain amplifies its own narrative. For some, that introspection is peaceful. For others, it's a hall of mirrors where anxieties echo. This is why darkness feels heavier during grief or stress. The void does not create fear, but it strips away the noise that usually hides it. Alone with ourselves, we meet the parts of the psyche we spend daylight avoiding. Scientists have long tested the edges of darkness. In the 1950s, psychologist Donald Hebb paid students to lie in sound-dampened dim rooms. Within hours, volunteers reported swirling colors, phantom music, even tactile hallucinations. They struggled to track time. Some begged to leave within 2 days. Neuroscientist John C. Lilly expanded the experiment with isolation tanks, body temperature saltwater chambers sealed from light and sound. Participants described floating beyond their bodies, hearing voices, and watching vivid inner landscapes unfold. Modern float tank research confirms these findings. With sensory input removed, the brain's prediction machinery invents its own reality. NASA, the space agency, trains astronauts to combat what they call void vertigo. In underwater simulations of spacewalks, divers panic if visual markers aren't painted on the pool walls. Deprived of light and orientation, the mind drifts, convinced it's falling through infinite space. Darkness isn't simply the absence of light. It's a cognitive amplifier that turns thought into environment. Filmmakers understand that what you can't see is more frightening than anything you can. Long, unbroken shots into shadow forces audience to imagine the threat. Neurocinema studies show synchronized spikes in viewers' heart rates during extended darkness on screen, even when no monster appears. Artists have wielded black just as strategically. Caravaggio's chiaroscuro pulled figures from surrounding voids, making darkness an active participant in the scene. Contemporary photographers and stage designers do the same, using negative space to focus attention and build tension. In art and horror alike, darkness isn't a backdrop. It's a character. Electricity promised mastery over light, but it came with a hidden cost. Light pollution now obscures the Milky Way for most of the world's population. Studies link constant illumination to disrupted circadian rhythms, insomnia, and increased anxiety. Wildlife suffers as migratory birds lose their celestial cues, and nocturnal animals lose their hunting patterns. Yet, even in cities ablaze with neon, our old instincts wait just beneath the surface. Blackout events regularly produce spikes in emergency calls and unease. The ancient fear is only masked, not erased. Beneath the LEDs, the primal night still breathes. But not all darkness is menace. Monks and mystics have sought it for millennia as a path to insight. Modern dark retreat centers advertise it as a psychological reset. Astronomers travel to remote deserts for a glimpse of the unpolluted cosmos. Research backs the intuition. Safe, low-light environments can lower heart rate and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, easing stress and sharpening focus. When darkness is voluntary, it transforms from threat to sanctuary. The void becomes not a predator, but a teacher. Darkness is the universe's first condition. The backdrop of every star, every city, every flame we've ever lit. We fear it because vision defines reality, and without it, we confront the restless machinery of our own minds. When a place is too dark, your mind tries to fill it. The question is always, with what? May your search for the unknown continue. And as always, thank you for watching.